Hello, welcome to my tutorial video on aluminum can sunflowers. Hopefully you've already watched my basic series, Aluminum Can Flower Tutorials, part 1 through 5. And if you have, you already know what to do to prepare for this video. This is the sunflower we will be making today. If you can see all of the ridges in there, how nice it looks. All right, well, we'll set that aside. So, first off, we've got our can parts, and what I like to do with the sunflowers is kind of check and make sure there is about 1/2 inch to 1/3 of an inch difference in size, so your flower petals stick out for the one that's on the bottom. And so I've already cut this one, and I'm going to peel back all of these cuts. And we did go over how to cut in the tutorial basics. So I've got this one, and I'll set that one aside. And then for the bottom flower, just do our cuts to the silver, not past the silver. We always watch for the end to see where we're going to be. And that one's a little off, so I'm just going to trim it up right there. Peel that off. So now we'll pull back. They don't need to be all the same size. No flower that I'm aware of has completely identical petals. So it's all right if some are slightly bigger than the other. Peel them all back. Okay, and for the cuts, we're going to do it like we discussed in the tutorial, the basics. Flip it over, and like so. Just a snip, snip, snip. And rather than doing all of them, I'll just show you, you flip it over, and you always make sure you're going to want to have some semblance of a flat end so it's not pointy and sharp and doesn't cut you. And then you just continue on, like so. So once you've done both of your pieces and cut them, they will resemble these flowers. I already started the indents on these, so we'll just finish up the last couple. So you can see, I generally use like a notepad backing. You can use a piece of cardboard, but you want a surface with a little bit of give. And I take my trusty pen, and like so, just do a few indented lines like so, and see that's your result done. And it's better to do it before you paint it, but not always necessary depending on the type of paint that you use. Some cheaper paints will actually crack the paint and it'll chip. So it's better to do it beforehand. And then we've got this one. Same deal. And then this one is done. And that's how it looks. So you'll see when you set them together, we haven't done any bending with it yet, but that's generally, you want to make sure the bottom layer extends out a little more than the top layer. So we've got those. And you know how we paint them. We attach them to a work surface such as cardboard, like we've done here. And these are painted. I'm going to take off this one. We'll be using it for our bottom. Now, as you can see, I didn't paint the inside because it's going to be covered, so that doesn't actually matter. Now we'll go over the paints. Generally, spray paint is wonderful. It's easy, it's quick. But for my sunflowers in this shade of yellow, I really like to use this Rust-Oleum. It's really great. Generally 1 coat. You can do 2. It varies with how I want it to look, but this is really good. And it goes a long way. So that's what I've done with these. I've painted them this way. Now with our top flower, of course, I do want to paint the inside of this one because you want to have a surface that's been painted so your next paint can adhere to it a little bit better. And it comes to a point where you aren't always sure what paints mesh well with one another. So what I always do is once I've cut these cans and I have big sheets left over, like this, I like to take whatever paint I'm using for the flowers and do a quick sample sheet of that paint. So when it comes to decorating it, I can do some tests, because if they don't mesh well, it will ruin your entire project. So I did some tests with these pieces. And I just put a little coat on there for myself to know what they were. This is a Sharpie. This is a brand of an acrylic marker pen. This is a Bic similar to a Sharpie. And then different brands. This actually is my gloss paint that I used. Always gloss. I love gloss. And I really liked that look the absolute best. So I also was able to tell that putting the gloss directly on this paint surface did not cause any negative reaction. So a lot of times when I'm putting dark onto light, it's nice to do like a marker or a paint pen top coat on your flower, but you want to make sure that top coat, like these, that it meshes well with your paint that you're going to use over it. So for example, I really liked this brand of paint pen, even though it is flat. I thought it would be a good base to eliminate the need to paint the middle of the flower over and over and over. Sometimes it's simple as that, just putting down a base with a marker. So I had another test strip. I noticed it was starting to do some funky changes here. Did not like that, so I opted out of that one. So now that I know this one is no longer an option. So I also did another test with my Bic and Sharpie. The Sharpies seem to, I don't want to say dry up, but they don't go the long distance as well as the Bic markers that are very similar to Sharpies. So for the top piece, that's what I do, is just color it like so. And you want to be careful when you go around this edge here. Now, one nice thing too is if it's a paint that you hand painted on and not a spray paint, if you end up getting a fleck or a little bit of something brown into your yellow, just touch it up. You've got plenty of that paint. So we've done this, and let's just say we covered the entire thing. And then I got out my glossy coffee bean from Apple Barrel. I like Apple Barrel. And this is a sample of what the result is. I like that gloss look. I think it looks sharp. It did take 2 coats, but that's not bad. I've had projects before I figured out the markers where I've had to paint things over and over, and it would be up to 4 and 5 times. So that's burdensome. So we've got that piece. Now what we want to do is put on the little dots, like so. Now it's up to you if you want them all to be the same size or if you like a variety of different sizes. So all the same, I went back to a sample sheet that I had prepped, and I did the Bic and then the gloss paint. So I had a very similar surface with the same paint. And I tested out some of my paint pens, markers, and then I used the Rust-Oleum, and I really like the Rust-Oleum look the best. As you can see, it does look the best. So for doing that, I've got a small amount of it right here. And these are really good. These, I'm not sure what they're called, stylus style ball pens. I use them in clay and other things, but I found that with painting, they work really well. So, just dip it in my paint. And I want to start doing outside areas first. And another thing, it is helpful if you want to put your centerpiece in prior to painting your design, so you'll know exactly your spacing to work around. Like that. Okay, so now I know I don't want to get too close right there, but I generally try and do some sporadic on the outside, pretty much similar size here and there. And these stylus balls, they work really well. I used a toothpick earlier today and then remembered, oh wow, I remember now why this did not work so well. And found my stylus. And see how easy and smooth that just goes on great. And if you like that look, go with the similar sizes or just put a little small one here and there, and you'll have that. So it's all as to what you like, what you want to do. I think either way, it ends up looking really good. So let's just say that this is dry and completed. We would bend these down on our first piece somewhat. And you want to always bend these up before you place it in. It is metal on metal, and it will scratch in some cases if they rub against one another. So that's going to be the look. Now here is one that I've already done where I like to bend, just like we talked about in the tutorial basics. I like that bent look. Now, one thing about this paint too that I wanted to tell you is I do like that three-dimensional look, but sometimes it's like a bubble pop. You know, you can see right there where there's a little speck in the center. All you do, once it's completely dry, just fix it up. You can use a stylus or a toothpick. Toothpicks always come in handy for the small detail stuff. So as you can see, that fixes it right up. So this would be your completed flower. And you've got the long fastener in it. And we have our stick. We have our already formed leaves. And we have our piece of wire. And we have our E6000. And if you watch the last video of the basic series, you'll know how to assemble this flower. And you will have a beautiful sunflower. So that's it for the sunflowers. If you like my content and would like to see more, please let me know by subscribing to my channel and liking my videos. I can't wait to show you more. Thank you for watching.